Hello guys, Ancient Gameplays, I'm Fabio Pisco and welcome to my channel. And as for today we have a review of the new Adrenalin 24.2.1, and as I say in all my videos, 24 is the 24 is the year 2024, 2 is the month February, and 1 is the revision in that same month, so the first revision of February. Now you might have seen my previous video about the 24.2.1, but those were beta drivers. They were kind of in a beta state, and well, according to what I've seen so far, they aren't exactly the same as this new release, as this new release brings, for example, new Vulkan extensions, and it seems that it works better in some scenarios compared to the beta drivers, which is a good thing actually. But at the same time, well, these drivers are kind of bittersweet, as we all know that with AMD, as soon as they bring new features, at least important new features, the next 2 or 3 driver versions will be completely broken or close to completely broken, because when they were implementing new features, they broke some other things in the way. But that's normal for the AMD side, but things are getting on the track once again after the AFMF drivers, which were the 24.1.1, and these new ones are actually kind of nice, kind of getting better. And the same for the sponsor that keeps getting better and better. Today's sponsor is Maximum Settings, a cloud-based gaming service where you won't need to spend thousands of dollars to upgrade your PC or a personal nuclear plant to boot up your system. Just do it! And for as low as 9.95 Canadian dollars a month, you can play the most recent games on your computer, even if your hardware isn't prepared. Sign up today for your full Linux gaming PC with no resource sharing and start enjoying high-level gaming on any PC. So as for the drivers, like I told you before, they aren't exactly equal to the beta version, and in my opinion so far they are slightly better. They're still not the best that you can get, at least for now, for some cards, but for my systems where I tested them they were kind of stable and more stable than the beta version. But well, let's start with the release notes and then we'll go, as usual, into the parts where I tell you my experience. Firstly, we start with new features highlight, with new game support for Skull and Bones and Nightingale. And then we have expanded Vulkan extension support, like I told you before, something that wasn't in the beta drivers. We have Vulkan, KHR, calibrated timestamps, the line rasterization, load store up none. We have lots and lots of Vulkan extensions and you can click there for more information. Then we have the fixed issues, where we actually have lots of them, with the first one being improvement to intermittent driver timeout or application crash experienced while playing Helldivers 2 on Radeon 7000 series GPUs. AMD is continuing to investigate additional reports of driver timeouts and application crashes while playing Helldivers 2, which is a very good thing because some players were actually having some issues, and sadly with these drivers, from what I've seen, they still are. Not entirely, AMD actually fixed most of the issues, but there are still some. For example, in some situations where the game is using 100% of the GPU with the 7000 series, they might crash. But as soon as you go, for example, for high settings where you are more CPU bound in some scenarios, you'll be fine. Or if you lock your frame rates, you can still lock your frame rates and you'll most likely be fine. That's what I heard, at least, since I don't have the game. Improvements to excessive stutter while playing various games, including Battlefield 2042, Destiny 2, Overwatch 2, Monster Hunter World, PUBG Battlegrounds and Star Wars Battlefront 2. And now this is one of the most interesting things that I've seen in these drivers, and for the first reason is that we are actually fixing the issue that we had with the 24.1.1. For example, the only unplayable game that I had before was Dead Space Remake that was completely unplayable. I mean, we had from 4 to 6 second stutters and that was crazy, completely impossible to play that way. And with the 24.2.1, well, they improved quite a lot, sincerely. The stutters are still there because the game still stutters in every CPU and in every system that I tested, being an NVIDIA or AMD card. In any system that I tested, the game still stutters, so it's a game thing, but like it was stuttering before, it wasn't a game thing, and it was definitely the drivers, and now, gladly, it is much better, because the shader cache issues were actually one of those issues that came with the AFMF driver, the 24.1.1, they weren't there before. But on the other hand, they actually fixed Destiny 2, according to the players on this channel that commented on the previous video. Destiny 2 never ran so good. compared to the previous drivers. In the previous drivers in the past years, Destiny 2 never run as good as it runs now with these drivers, the 24.2.1. So if you're having issues with Destiny 2, try these drivers because they might fix it. And of course, leave your comment in the comment section and let me know if they actually fix it or not for you. Deathloop may experience extended loading times on some AMD graphics products such as Radeon RX 7900 XT, also fixed. Dead Space may experience an application crash after enabling RTAO on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 6800 non-XT, intermittent application crash when first launching Enshrouded or changing anti-aliasing settings on the Radeon 7000 series graphics products, once again also fixed, very nice. Shadows may appear bright or reflections may be missing while playing Enshrouded on Radeon 7000 series graphics products. Once again, it seems that Enshrouded still has some issues, but AMD is working on fixing them. HDR settings may intermittently fail to take effect while playing certain games such as Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Intermittent driver timeout or application crash may be considered while playing Counter-Strike 2 with FSR enabled on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 7900 XTX. Once again fixed. Graphics API metric may be incorrectly reported as DirectX 12 for some Vulkan games, which is actually a very odd issue, and after a system reboot, Parsec host application may experience a crash on some AMD graphics products such as Radeon RX 7900 XTX. During Microsoft Teams meeting, the camera may intermittently display looped footage on some AMD products such as the Ryzen 7840U processor. And this is a really interesting bug that was fixed, and like I said on my previous video, the beta one, well, why not make it a feature? I would just leave the bug be and make it work into a feature, which would be much more interesting, sincerely. You might really want the looped footage. For example, you are assisting a class, an online class, and you want to go to the bathroom, and you don't want other people to know that you're in the bathroom. So what you do? Looped footage.
Call an ambulance! Call an ambulance! But not for me!
Another fixed issue is Oculus Rift S may display with green tint on AMD Radeon 7000 series GPUs, an annoying bug that was fixed gladly. AFMF may be inaccurately displayed on select hybrid graphics configurations, particularly in systems where one of the devices lacks support for AFMF. AFMF must be supported on the displaying GPU to be activated. And the final one that wasn't presented with the beta drivers are still here, and is mouse lag or stutter may be observed when selecting the discrete GPU as the primary display adapter on certain mobile systems, such as the Ryzen 9 6900HS mobile processor paired on an AMD RX 6800S mobile GPU. But as always, there's not only the fixed issues, we have lots of known issues, and we actually have one more known issue compared to the beta drivers as well. Intermittent driver timeout or application crash may be experienced while playing Helldivers 2 with 100% GPU utilization on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 7900 XTX. And as I was telling you before, well, it seems that AMD recognized this, and as soon as you're playing the game with 100% GPU utilization, well, you might be prone to crashing, and if you want to avoid that, just lock the FPS numbers and it will fix it. It is a temporary fix, but it works. Intermittent application crash or driver timeout may be observed while playing StarCraft 2 on Radeon RX 7000 series GPUs. Intermittent application crash or driver timeout may be observed while playing Overwatch 2 with Radeon Boost enabled on Radeon RX 6000 and above series GPUs. Users experience this issue are recommended to disable Radeon Boost as a temporary workaround. And in my opinion, I actually advise you to disable Radeon Boost as a definitive workaround, because, well, there's no reason to use Radeon Boost nowadays, seriously. With upscalers, frame generation and so on, Radeon Boost is, yeah, not needed. World of Warcraft may experience extended initial loading times with DirectX 12 API on some AMD graphics products such as the Radeon RX 6800 non-XT, and shader caching may fail for Windows usernames containing accented characters. Resolution targeted for 24.3.1, which is a nice thing that I like to see on AMD drivers, on the release notes of course, where they are targeting the resolution 4 or 2. FPS performance metric may incorrectly report values while a game is minimized. Resolution also targeted for the 24.3.1 drivers. AMD SmartX's video may be incorrectly reported as available on some systems with a Parsec virtual display driver installed. Performance drop may be observed while using some direct ML workloads in Topaz AI, and this is one of the bugs that I believe that was fixed before and now is once again on the known issues. I don't know if these new drivers actually kind of broke this thing once again, or if it was never fixed entirely, but it wasn't here and it is here once more, so yeah. And the last one is audio and video may intermittently become out of sync while recording using the AV1 codec in AMD Software Adrenalin Edition, and the resolution is targeted for the Q3. And man, they are targeting the resolution for Q3. So we have to wait at least 3 more months in order for them to fix this issue that has been occurring already for another 2 or 3. This is really an AMD thing, but I mean, it is not an important issue in my opinion, so they have bigger issues to deal with first and then this one, but still, Q3. As for the important notes, we have one really important note, which is the some per game graphics profiles may have incorrectly been set to hypr-rx eco after a driver upgrade. Users experiencing this issue may use the factory reset option to return all profiles to default. And once again, you should always do a clean installation of the drivers. If you don't know how to do it, just go and watch the DDU video that I made, where I explain where to properly uninstall and reinstall drivers with a clean installation using DDU, Display Driver Installer, in order to make things as they should, to make things flawless, let's say that. So check that video if you don't really know what to do. Now let's go to the part that most of you want to see, which is basically the goods and the bads about this driver version, what I found basically. Now let's start with the problems. Instead of starting with the good things, let's start with the problems today. So the problems is that sometimes we have a browser and media HDR bug. For example, when the monitor goes to sleep, or when I restart the computer, or when I shut down the computer and then I start it once again after some hours, I have an HDR issue with these drivers, something that does not happen with the previous ones. So this is a driver issue and happens, and I have to go into the Windows settings, enable HDR and disable it once again in order to fix that issue. Although I did try one thing, which was basically disconnect the cable and connect it again to the GPU, and somehow most times now it doesn't give me that issue. It still gives sometimes, but not in all, which is a good thing. So it seems that compared to the beta version, it is slightly better already. The other bad thing is the shader cache still not 100% fixed. It is much better than the previous drivers, and in some rare scenarios like Destiny 2, it is much better than it ever was, let's say that, but still not as it should be. Still better than it was before. Then we have the lack of new games support. We've had like one driver version for January and one driver version for February as well. So one driver per month, and still we lack support for new games like Banishers, Ghost of New Eden and so on. So I tested the performance, and the performance was basically the same in one driver and another, meaning that there is no support whatsoever, and AMD actually doesn't state the support in the release notes. We have support for newer games, but we have some of them that aren't really supported per se, like Pell World never got an official release note support, same for Banishers, Ghost of New Eden and so on. And of course the same applies for Helldivers, that this driver is supposed to be for Helldivers, but it doesn't officially support Helldivers, not in the release notes, which is odd to say the least. As for the good things, well, we have the shader cache once again, because like I told you before, it is much better than the 24.1.1, so if you still want to use AFMF and some other features like the 90 and 120 FPS recording, if you want those features, if you really use them and you don't want to go back to the 23.12.1 drivers or 23.11.1, well, you can just use the 24.2.1 that still have those features and is much better, almost perfect in some scenarios, like Destiny 2 once again in terms of shader cache. The other good thing, according to some people, because I do not own a VR headset, so I don't really know, but according to some people in the comment section of the previous video, these drivers, the 24.2.1, are the best drivers so far they had for VR performance. They fixed the Oculus Rift S green tint or something like that, and at the same time they actually improved VR performance for some users, which is, once again, like they told, the best drivers that they had so far for VR performance. Nice. And the last thing that I found is that, well, since the shader cache issues are better with these drivers compared to the 24.1.1, these drivers have better 1% lows, usually better 1% lows across the board. I tested with the 7900 XTX and with the 6750 XT, and in both scenarios the 1% lows were a bit higher. For example, in Alan Wake 2, the 6750 XT didn't crash as much, didn't stutter as much, let's say that, not crash, stutter. And the same applied for the 7900 XTX that didn't stutter as much in some other scenarios, like for example Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. So it is definitely better compared to the 24.1.1. And yeah, basically that's it. Apart from that, no blue screens, no crashes, everything was working as it should, more or less. We had some bugs here and there, like I told you, the HDR issue, but apart from that, yeah, I believe this is all that I gathered. Yeah. Now, for some of you guys that usually tell me things like in the comment section, like, why are you not showing this issue? Why are you not showing that issue? Well, let's start firstly with you using your own brain properly. Because obviously, I don't have all the issues. That's impossible. I'm just showing you there's a reason why this part is called My Experience. It's because it is my experience with these drivers, and I can only show you and I can only tell you the issues that I found with my experience. So I can't just make up issues, or just imagine the issues that you're gonna have and kind of show them. In this case, I showed some user-related topics because since I released the beta video first, people actually commented and told me some things, like once again the thing from Helldivers 2, the thing from VR and so on, and then I included it on this video. But usually I can only talk about issues or improvements that I found on my experience, because I'm just one, of course. I'm just one, and I can't imagine what your experience will be or won't be. So just once again, use your little green or gray mass. Yeah. And well guys, that's all for today's video. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much. Don't forget, hit like, subscribe and share it. And as always, leave your comment in the comment section with your experience in these drivers, or with these drivers, sorry, because once again, I'm just one guy and I make these videos in order for people to actually share their experiences in the comment section as well, for people to help each other sometimes, and for people to tell the community which issues they have. Because sometimes you have an issue and some other people have the same issue. Sometimes you have that issue, and it's just a you thing. The other people don't have it. So we need to share it in the comment section in order to make AMD actually, because I believe that AMD watches, or some people at AMD watch some of these videos in order to know issues that they have to fix. So that's a good thing, I believe. Thank you very much once again, and stay for the side-by-side comparisons as usual. See you in the next video, guys.
the Resistance, report to your nearest intake facility immediately. We promise nothing nefarious will befall you. We promise. Resistance members, report to the VIP section of your nearest intake facility for compulsory behavioral modification. It will be fun. Fun.
The payphone was ringing. Somehow I knew the call was for me. Hello?
Alan Wake?
Yes.
Do you know who I am?
No? Who is this?
We'll get to that later. There are spies all over. Shadows.
A sense of deja vu washed over me. Had I had this conversation before?
Alan